You renew your mind every day. You clean your instrument every day. And then when you have all conditions geared, you just become a channel and you're plugged into nature. Anyone that is plugged into nature benefits from nature's resources, be it, you know, money or abundance or intimacy or love or whatever, whatever's floating around in the abundance frequency that is meant for your life to be as fruitful as possible. The fruit of your life is the fruit on life's tree.
Hello and welcome to Get Yourself Optimized. I'm your host, Stephan Spencer, and it is my pleasure to have Garrain Jones with us. Garrain is an author, speaker, and facilitator who's dedicated to helping folks awaken their inner artist and tap into the abundance frequency. His best-selling book, Change Your Mindset, Change Your Life, teaches how to lead an extraordinary life without regret. Garrain, it's so great to have you on the show.
Stephan, it's so great to connect with you. And I just want to take this opportunity to honor you and acknowledge you for being brave enough to open up platforms like this for stories like mine to have wings of possibility.
I love talking to folks who have been forged in the crucible, have had challenging either childhood or earlier adult life and have come out risen like a phoenix and made an incredible impact and continue to do so. And you definitely fit the bill. So thanks for being on the show. Let's start with, I would love to hear more and have our listener understand your origin story, because it is so powerful, inspiring, and a bit shocking.
Yeah, my origin story, I'm going to share it in parts because it wouldn't make sense how I can go through so many things and keep bouncing back unless I shared like just my childhood domestication of my brother, who was 4 years older than me. He started puberty when he was 9 and I started puberty when I was 18 years old. So I was a little kid for a very long time, and we would wrestle every single day and he would just lean on me and I could never get up. And he was watching WWF, WWE, UFC, and I would have to learn all these moves. He was like, get back up, get back up. So I always had a mountain on me. That's just the way that I pictured it, a mountain on me, and I'd have to find a way to get back on my feet. So I just want everybody to remember this when you hear the trajectory of my story and how I kept bouncing back and getting back up. Simultaneously, my family doesn't come from money. Our house got burned down. We didn't have any insurance. And I always saw my mom I'm going to figure out a way. She would just always be calm through the face of resistance and anything extreme. She'd always be calm. That was her demeanor. And she'd always find a way to put food on our back, clothes on our back, food on the table, and a roof over our head. So I had my mom doing that and my brother leaning on me. So that was the general makeup of my resilience, because what came after that was me going in and out of juvenile, me going to prison for teenagers. My father was murdered when I was 12 years old. I got busted for 62 felonies, which was breaking into 62 cars in one night. And, in and out of jail, serving a 12-year sentence, got out in 2.5 years, was living in my car for 2.5 years. So, I mean, that was like over a 30-year span of things, but I just want to point those out, that I always found a way to keep getting back on my feet and getting back up and getting back up and getting back up. I want to close it out by saying there was a moment, because most people, they live their life in these specific patterns and they carry out that pattern until their physical body leaves this earth. Well, unless something interrupts that pattern, because an object in motion stays in motion. Well, there was one time at 3:43 in the morning, 2011, and I was already living in my car for 2.5 years, almost $250,000 in debt. My daughter pretty much disowned me. My girlfriend had broken up with me because I couldn't get my life together, and my mom was dying in the hospital. So all of this was happening at the same time. And I just screamed out, okay, I'm tired of fighting. I don't want to fight anymore. I want to be healthy. I want to be happy. I want to be surrounded by nothing but positive people. I just want to inspire people. And I want to make a bunch of money, but I want the money to represent something that I passionately believe in that I would do for free. Just show me a sign. And to close this out, my sign came a week later when a homeless guy comes up to me and asks me for money. And I said, you have more money than me, because he had a wad of money. And he said, change your mindset, change your life. Seemed like something that was out of a movie, but like it created a conscious interrupt. It literally interrupted the habitual nature of the way in which I thought and lived, and made me think about, if my mind is set on something, then that's why the result is what it is. Well, it's been 12 years almost to the date, and I've trained myself to do the opposite in every area of my life where I wasn't happy. I wasn't happy in my health, in my money, with business. I wasn't happy with my family, my relationship with my daughter, my mom, and actual intimate relationships. So all those areas, I trained myself and found the right communities and found the right books, because even reading books was a part of my opposite. Going to seminars and learning spiritual psychology and doing 10 days in the dark, 5-day silent retreats, and doing all this emotional intelligence stuff. All of that was part of something I would never do. But because I would never do it, I started doing it, and it started producing different results. So my life right now is a direct flip. I've been able to grow 3 companies to 7 figures, and it's not the typical way either. 3 companies, 7 figures, high paid speaker all over the world, teaching the story that I'm going to share and all the lessons that I'm going to share on this podcast today. Been able to retire my mom and really invest into like impoverished communities and do some really great things in the world based off the things that I learned while turning my life into an opposite. Now it's the inverse, like a rocket ship going straight up. And I'm devoted to my last breath of sharing these stories and philosophies, so that somewhere deep down inside, the dark place where you haven't yet given a voice sees hope and sees what freedom looks like in fresh flesh form, so that you can say, you know what, me too. I don't have to overcompensate. And so that's ultimately my origin story that has brought me to where I am today, Stephan.
Wow. When you said that homeless man said, change your mindset, change your life, I got the goosebumps, the angel bumps, and I got the insight that that was an angel. That wasn't just a human. That was an angel sent to you to say those very words to you at exactly the moment that you needed to hear it.
I believe that 100%. It turned into my first company. It turned into my best-selling book, Change Your Mindset, Change Your Life. When I write people a check, it would just say, change your mindset, change your life. So it was the gift that kept giving. And I always think about, I was like, that wasn't no homeless dude. That wasn't no homeless. Nobody just says that and has that kind of energy that can literally penetrate your entire soul.
Wow. I love that. That is so cool. Thank you for sharing. Now, you got that as a request, the answer to your request, show me a sign. Have you asked for other signs and received other signs as responses?
You know what? I had my entire life, but I didn't realize until I started doing personal growth and learning about the self and the mind and the spirit and your ancestral wisdom. Before I started learning all those things, I was just like, oh, I'm lucky. Oh, I said this and this happened. So you can't see the picture while you're in the frame. But then once I was finally aware, after I had done personal development and learned about manifestation and magnetizing your life in a specific way, I connected the dots looking backwards to some of my first lies. And I didn't understand as a little kid. And I was like, I can't play football in the street because I'm a model. I'm with one of the best agencies. And I was lying through my teeth. And I'm like, I'm with one of the best agencies. I'm going to fly to Los Angeles and live in this big house. And all these people, when I was 7 years old, were laughing. They're like, oh my God. And I was lying through my teeth. Well, what ended up happening later on? I was one of the highest paid African-American models in America, doing the biggest ads, the biggest commercials. And I was living in Los Angeles in a nice size home. And this is before I had lost it all, because I didn't understand how to sustain this life. But I lied, supposedly, I just said something to the point where I believed it and believed it and believed, and all of a sudden I was actually living it. So that was my first bout of being able to ask for something or even be able to say something and it show up in my life. So it always been there, but now I'm more aware. And so I call it in all the time.
That's so cool. Now, this reminds me of a lady I just met a couple weeks ago at PodFest, which is a podcasters conference. And she shared a story about a vision that she had at, I think it was 8 years old, where she saw in the classroom, she was in the classroom and she saw through the blackboard her speaking on stages. And she didn't know what a public speaker was. She didn't know that that was a thing, that you could make money doing it, but she saw it clear as day. And people just dismissed her when she shared it. So she learned to not share that vision with people. And yet it stuck with her. And now she does speak on stages. And that was just a taste, a preview of what was to come. So it was not a lie. It was a preview or a precognition. Do you feel that it was precognition for you as well?
I don't remember the exact feeling I had when I was 7. I just remember all those things that I thought I lied about happened. And what I think is I started something in motion. And once I just recognized it was emotion, I didn't feel like it was like, I'm like lying in a certain way. I was like, oh my God, it's like, yo, I slept with this girl. And then those type of things would happen. And so I was like, well, maybe there's something into saying things and believing things. Maybe it's actually not a lie. Maybe that's a word that man made up so it could block us from actually manifesting and creating the life that we actually want. Maybe because, I feel these words have certain frequencies and codes in them. Maybe it's like, oh, that's a lie. And then they domesticated us with these specific words so that we might not have full access and capacity to the divine beings that we are.
Well, yeah, and another way that this insidious thing happens from control structures in society is you're being told as a young child, stop talking to imaginary beings. That's crazy. You're going to be ridiculed. You're going to be beaten up on the playground. And yet these kids are speaking with, communicating in telepathic and extra sensory ways with their angels, with divine beings, and they're being ridiculed for it by their parents and other people in authority, like teachers. So that shuts off the psychic channel, and then they are, much more pliable and ready to plop into their seat and get the rote memorization kind of robotic curriculum in school.
Yeah, it's something I want to add to that. Yesterday, I have a daughter who's 15 months old. Her name is Soul. And I heard her make a peep at like 7:15 a.m. yesterday. And then she just started peeping more. And then she was literally full blown having a conversation. She's like, bada, bada, no, bada, bada, da, 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 for literally legit hour. And then I went in there. And when I went in there, her eyes were closed. She's standing at the edge of her crib and she's going like this. She's doing something like her eyes are closed. She was like, no, 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 no. And then she's going like this with her eyes closed. I'm like, you ain't fooling anybody inside that baby body. I was like, but I'm here for it. And I support it 100%. So I hear you when you say that. And I definitely don't want to be a part of what I had to experience growing up. But my mom didn't know any better. So it took me 35 years to reclaim little Garrain again, which ultimately turned into my new company, which is called Artist Power. The artist is the little kid inside before life stripped everything away from you. And I teach people how to tap back into that energy that unlocks a power, which is called Artist Power, which taps into the same frequency and the same thing that makes the flower grow. It locks in the co-creation of all of nature, all the planets, the stars, everything. And gets to ride the wave of that.
There's a teaching in Kabbalah that desire comes before the fulfillment. And when you were 7 years old and you just knew what you were going to become and what was going to manifest in your life, that desire for that actually preceded the fulfillment, preceded the desire. The desire is like the fuel, the engine room for the physical manifestation in this physical plane. But the manifestation already happened in the spiritual upper worlds because that's why you desire it. You've already tasted it. If you didn't taste the fulfillment, you wouldn't have the desire for it.
Yeah. And I have something to speak to that. I was 14, I had this vision of me winning 5 Grammys, walking on the red carpet with my mom. When I got my awards, my mom walked on stage with me. And I just told her, I said, Mom, I'm retiring you. And I had this feeling, it was so real. And so it was like music, 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 music. In 2011, I left music. But for some reason, I still had that same feeling. I was like, for some reason, I still feel like I'm gonna win 5 Grammys and walk on the red carpet with my mom and retire my mom. And it's like, this is even while I was living in my car. Next thing you know, I come into the health and wellness industry and become a wellness entrepreneur, and then one of the top in my field in an $8 billion company, just like impacting the community. And every year they have this thing. It's almost like our version of the honors. I mean, not honors, but our version of the Oscars. It's dressed up the exact same way. You get awards. The only thing is your reward comes with the top 250 wellness entrepreneurs get 2% bonus of the company's $8 billion earnings. So you're about to get a whole bunch of money for doing great work in the community. I was notified that I was one of those top 250. And next thing you know, I was like, whoa, where is it being held? They said the same place where they're hosting the Grammys. And I won 5 awards. And I'm walking on the red carpet with my mom. This is at age 35. I'm about to be 44 now. Yeah. Yeah, 35, 36, 38. About to be 44. Walking on the red carpet with my mom. And I was like, oh my God, this is the same feeling. This is it. And I'm like, whoa, this is it. And I looked at my mom once I got this huge award and this huge bonus. And I said, Mom, call your boss. Tell them you're not going back to work. She's like, what do you mean? I said, Mom, I'm retiring you. So since 2015, my mom has been doing what she wants to do, and we set her up on a plan. And she's going to be launching her eyewear line, which is, she gave up on her dream of becoming a fashion designer when she gave birth to me and my brother, who's 4 years older than me. And then when I retired her, I handed her a certificate to Fashion Institute, and so she could literally be reinstated back into her dream. And in 2020, at the end of 2023, early 2024, she's launching her Jazzy Grand eyewear line. So this was part of exactly what you were talking about.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Do you believe that you have soul contracts with the important people in your life, like your mom, your brother, that before you incarnated, you guys made a plan, had an agreement about all the different things that your brother is going to jump on you and kind of beat you down to the ground all the time and sit on you and make you try and, fight your way out of it, and that your mom was almost die in the hospital, and all these different things that were just kind of agreed upon prior to incarnation?
Yeah, I believe that there's something I was supposed to learn and something my brother's supposed to learn. I never really dug into the exact specific details of all the things, but you are supposed to learn how to do this. Whatever is meant to teach you is going to teach you. The way I think about it is, say for instance, you want to, I've run 64 miles over a mountain before. I've done ultra marathons and triathlons and half Ironmans and all kind of swam 3.5 miles in the ocean. If you were to come to me and say, hey, Coach Garrain, I want you to train me to do a marathon, and you've never done that before, the first question I'm going to ask you is like, well, how would you like to complete the race? Do you want to walk across? Do you want to just finish? Do you want to compete? Do you want to get in the top 50, top 20, top 10, top 5, break a world record? Based off of your response, that is going to unlock how I specify my training for you so that you can shape, develop, and mold to be able to complete the race that you're asking. So what I believe is somewhere in our lineage or in our past, there was something that I was supposed to do. And maybe somebody else was supposed to do it, but they didn't fulfill the mission. So it passed on. It's like every success has a successor. And then it's like, boom, here's the same mission. Here's the same test. Here's the same marathon. You have the opportunity to complete because you're connected to the same field or the same frequency as this other person that didn't complete it. And how do you want to complete the race? And so this is part of my dreams and my visions. So I want to do this. I want to retire my mom. I want to flick humanity and give the world back its pulse so that we can be heart-based beings again. And I know that's a very, 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 very big race. So that will unlock the equal of its resistance, which is also my specified training. So I believe somewhere along the line, I was chosen and I chose. And I'm up for it all. And so that's why I think my life was like bullying, beat down, seeing murder, seeing people killed in front of my face, all of the hardest things. So now when I'm on stage in front of 55,000, 60,000 people speaking in 75 different countries and doing all these things, and I don't lose my shit, I'm like peaceful and calm and I don't get overwhelmed. It's because all of that training has supported the capacity to be able to harness the kind of life that can hold for the depth of living.
It's like your, and this is a Kabbalistic teaching, it's like your vessel has grown to the point where you can hold a lot more light. And one thing I was guided to share with you just now is you were woken up at 3:43 in the morning. So I got that was an angel number. And I looked it up in a book called Angel Numbers 101 by Doreen Virtue. And here's what it says for 343. Your spiritual devotion and practices have attracted the help and guidance of many trustworthy angels, archangels, and ascended masters.
Ooh. Come on, Stephan. Let's go. That just jacked me up. People often say, Garrain, you remind me, especially when I'm in my containers or I'm on stage and doing the things that I do. You're like a blend of like Tony Robbins and Harry Potter. I'm like, yo, I'm way more Harry Potter. So what you just said was just like tacking on to the Harry Potter part.
Yeah, that's awesome. Another important number for you is 12, because you got a sentence of 12 years. And at age 12 is when your father was murdered. So let me read to you number 12 as well from this book. Keep your thoughts positive about the future, as what you are thinking influences your future. This is a message to keep your faith and hope strong, because these are strong determining factors right now. So the way I interpret that is that faith is not just belief in God, but belief in everything that he's doing for you is for your highest and best good. Everything. Even the stuff that looks like it's the worst thing that could happen. And hope is that positive expectancy that it will continue to be so, that everything is a blessing. So that's my interpretation of that. I love your vulnerability and your authenticity. You're just so real. You're not going to sugarcoat stuff. You're not going to bypass the stuff that doesn't necessarily look good. Right. So for years, for example, I would not tell anybody that I was a foster child. And then in like 2016, I took a workshop with Clint Arthur and learned how to get TV appearances. And one of the things he challenged me to do, very grateful for, is to embrace that thing that I was hiding from and actually speak on TV about it. And I did a number of TV appearances about the 3 lies about foster kids. And I'm very grateful for that, because it's a gift. It's part of my story that makes me more relatable and more human and accessible. And why was I hiding from that?
Yeah. I also used to like hide Like I wasn't always the one that was like vulnerable and sharing and putting myself out there in a very real way. And I remember one day, and this was during that, after that 2011 awakening, I had been telling people, oh yeah, I'm a personal trainer and I do this and da da da. That felt like a lie that was just eating my soul alive, because people were like, yo man, I'm trying to get like you. And I'm like, man, I don't even want to live right now. And I'm trying to figure my life out. And Rihanna had a song called We Out Here Living a Lie. And I heard that song, out here living a lie, out here living a lie. And I couldn't get it out of my head. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to share. I'm going to share who I really am. And then I had gotten this spiritual advisor. Her name was Monica Zanz. And she had told me to write a letter from my big self to my little self. And then when I'm done, write a letter from my little self and switch to my non-dominant hand, and then write a letter from my little self to my big self. She didn't really give me a lot of context, but I just put context on there. I need to apologize to my little self for abandoning him, because I was ashamed of who I was when I was little and the life that I live. And I ran away. I even changed my name to my middle name. I went from Garrain to Stephan. Stephan is my middle name, so I could start over. And then I was like, little Garrain, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for leaving you. And I just apologize for abandoning him. When I switched to my non-dominant hand, which unconsciously I didn't even know was exercising a different part of my brain, I was not prepared for the amount of emotions that were coming through and out of me. And these were stuffed things that were pent from long time ago. And it was all snotty tears and curse words. You effing left me and everything. And I'm writing all this stuff. So when I was done, I went on Facebook and I wrote a post that's still on here right now. You think you know me? You have no idea. Here's what you know, because of what I told you. But what you don't know is I'm sleeping in an abandoned building right now. I'm sleeping in a storage unit, and I've cheated on every girlfriend I ever had. And I have money issues and all these different things that if anybody were to find out what would happen, I shared it all. And 5 years from now, I'm going to be a multimillionaire. And I'm going to retire my mom. I didn't know that was going to happen, but I said it, and it's on social media. When I wrote that down, I had like 7 pages. It was the first thing I'd ever done that gone viral, when I wasn't even a viral person. I didn't even have an Instagram. So there was nothing, I had no traction whatsoever. I tagged 60 something people or 70 people in a post, or 40 people, maybe 10 people would respond. So when I wrote that post, I maybe went to the bathroom for like 20 minutes, came back. I was like, where did these 2,000 likes come from? Where did 500 comments come from? Where did all these shares? I'd never seen anything like it. And I looked at my emails. The first person who wrote me was a celebrity who I didn't even know who knew me. Where did you get the strength to tell that story? That's what I'm doing right now. I put the gun down after I read your testimony. And I was like, 5th message, I didn't drive my car off a bridge after I read your testimony. And it was in that moment right there, I said, I know it's the first time in my life I felt like I had a purpose. And that's to be the voice of the voiceless, or the parts of you that you haven't yet given a voice. And that's where the vulnerability and the taking my dark and alchemizing it and saying, hey, me too. And you're not alone. And that's where that comes from.
That's amazing. This reminds me of a story that Ray Brem, another guest on this show, shared. He actually shared it with me in a Zoom breakout. He's in another mastermind that I'm in called JVMM. And he, at 8 years old, was very lost and trapped. He was living with a very abusive father, And he was contemplating suicide or running away, trying to figure out how he could escape, and he didn't really see any way out. And then he heard a voice saying, "I love you. Everything's going to be okay. I'm you in the future." So guess what happens? Decades later, he's doing something called the Hoffman process. And the instructor tells him to think of a time when he's 8 years old or so and send this message telepathically to his younger self. "I love you. Everything's going to be okay. I'm you in the future." So we can totally communicate from our big self to our little self and vice versa. Time is an illusion. We can telepathically communicate with our future self. Like Benjamin Hardy has that book, Be Your Future Self Now, which is really about telepathically communicating with your future self and bringing him or her forward into the now through telepathic communication and find out what are the things that will get you to where you want to be, to that version of you, and how do you avoid the minefields. Another thing that I wanted to comment on was how you shared, you actually went by the name Stephan, your middle name, for a while to, I guess, hide or change your identity. I went by the name Steve through most of my childhood because my aunt told me when I was little that Stephan was a sissy name. Now, she has no recollection of ever telling me this. You know, people say stuff and then it just hurts to the core and they don't remember anything about it. Well, that caused me to change my name to Steve for, I don't know, 12 years or something, until I became an adult and I realized, well, wait a second, Stephan is actually a really cool name and it's unusual. So I switched back to Stephan. I also embarrassingly cut my aunt out of my life for, I don't know, maybe 2 decades, 15 years, something like that. So yeah, I had a lot of unforgiveness towards her, not just for that. It's not good. Unforgiveness is the poison you drink yourself. And of course, it hurt her as well. She didn't get to meet my kids, who are now in their late 20s and early 30s, well into their teenage years. So yeah, that was not good. Definitely not good of me to do that. But the forgiveness that I sent her and the love that I sent her after I finally healed and expanded my vessel, filled my cup. I read some of a book called The 5 Tools, and one of those 5 tools is to imagine the person that you're in conflict with in front of you, and you send love from you to that person, and then you imagine what that's like for that person to be feeling that, receiving it. And then once you've finished that, then you fill yourself back up with love from the creator. So you draw that down from the upper worlds so that you're not depleted. And I did that with her, just visualization. And then I decided, okay, I'm going to give her a call. And so she's been back in my life and my family's life now for over a decade now. And I am very grateful for her forgiveness of me, because as you alluded to earlier, people in these dark places who are not very evolved in their thinking at the time say hurtful things, do hurtful things. It's not that they are intentional. It's that this was part of the soul contract for my highest and best good, ultimately, right? That's back into getting to what we talked about a few minutes ago about faith. So I recognize that. I forgave her. She forgave me. It's all for our highest and best good. But yeah, of course, I accumulated some negative karma for that degree of reactivity and unforgiveness.
There's a special power inside of embodied forgiveness. And I remember that I was just struggling with some things, like the 2 men who murdered my father, and I'm doing all this personal growth work, and people see what it's like on the outside. But I was like, man, there's something I'm missing. I'm missing the buck on something. And then I was doing a speaking engagement on culture and productivity in Boston. And it was about 3,000 people out there. It was the keynote. And by the time I was done, there was this guy that just kept looking at me. And I was on stage, and for the first time in my life, I forgave the 2 men who murdered my father. For my whole life, I wish they would die. I wish their kids would die, and anything like the absolute worst for taking my father away. And on that stage, I was consumed by the essence of freedom. And I truly allowed myself to forgive them. There was a guy that kept staring at me when I was off stage. I'm like, why does this guy keep looking at me? And it was like awkwardly weird. And he came over. He was like, man, I just wanted to apologize. I said, for what? He said, 20 years ago, I went to prison for attempted murder. And I just got out yesterday. And I was going to murder the guy who snitched on me 20 years ago. But I saw freedom through you and the way you forgave those two men. And I'm done. So I want to thank you because you modeled freedom for me. I'm not killing anybody. I'm And he said, and I also want to apologize on behalf of those two men who murdered your father. And that was the closure that 12-year-old Garrain always wanted. And I just wept and I cried and I cried. And I was just like, oh my God. So by me forgiving them, it found its way into this person. And the I'm sorry came through. And it was like nature's cycle completing itself. And I was just like, ah, and just like a video game, it's like I passed to another level. It's like this thick energy of heat just goes, and my world tastes different. Food tastes different. The eyes that I'm looking through, I was seeing different, and it happened. I can benchmark that specific moment. So I wanted to add that story to what you were sharing in terms of forgiveness.
Thank you. Are you familiar with the book The Little Soul and the Sun? It's by Neil Donald Walsh, and he also wrote Conversations with God.
Okay, I've read that one.
So this is a children's book, and the premise is similar to what you would have read in Conversations with God, that we are all beings of light. We're little candles on the sun. It's hard for us to see our majesty, our greatness, because we're just candles on the sun. The sun would not be the sun if one of its candles were missing. So we are essential. And in order to experience being the light, the little soul, one of those many candles on the sun, wanted to experience being the light. And God tells him, you're already the light. It's like, but I want to experience being the light. And so God says, okay, we can arrange that. And so he had to create darkness so that the little soul could experience being the light. In Kabbalah, this is referred to as Tzimtzum, Tzimtzum. Tzimtzum is the contraction. So God took his light of all that was, because he is all that is, and made the illusion that there was now some darkness, which gave us the space to be a light and see that light up a room. So the little soul saying, oh, thank you, that's wonderful. And now I can practice being the light in all the different ways, like being forgiving, being unconditionally loving. And God says, yes, except there's no one to forgive. He tells the little soul, look around. All of your little friends, we're all perfect. So in order for the little soul to experience being forgiving, he needed to have a friend be willing to volunteer to be dark, to lower his vibration enough to do a terrible thing that requires forgiveness. And that was the soul contract they went into. All right, let's do this. And you'll do this for me in another lifetime. And, we're going to help each other through this. But it's very important we don't forget that you being the forgiving one, who I really am. Because then we could both be lost. Because you'll forget yourself as well. And we'll need somebody else to come in and help us both remember. Such a powerful little children's story. And your story about forgiving those two men who murdered your father, that reminded me that These were bright beings of light, candles in the sun, who had to do a terrible thing in order to bring about your epiphanies and your transformation. And karma is the law of cause and effect. So when something happens that seems unjust, we just haven't seen the bigger picture. Past lifetimes with your father being the perpetrator or whatever, all the scales eventually balance out. But that's not the point. The point of it is to, experience being an aspect of the light called forgiveness. And in order to do that, you have to have somebody who seems unforgivable. That'll be a great book to read to your little one.
That's a great book for me to read too, because my brain, I operate in pictures in that way. Oftentimes I get kids' books. I'm like, no, this is actually a really good book. Actually, all adults should read this book.
So good. Okay, let's talk about some of the things that you're doing on a daily basis to alchemize the dark, to raise your vibration, to increase your ability to manifest, to increase your ability to deliver God's miracles in people's lives. What do you do every day?
So I wake up at 4:30 every morning without fail, and I'll go straight to a run. And I don't run for a workout. I run because it opens up my channel, and God uses me when I'm running more than any other thing that I do. It's like my moving meditation. That's where I get all my ideas from my retreats, my songs, the different programs that I design, different people I want to work with. It just falls through, and I trust everything that comes through. So I wake up in the morning, tap into my operating system, and I call it breath training. There's people that do breath work, but breath training is where I put my breath through extensive training. So I'll go run, and I live in hill country. So my goal is to run 5 to 10 miles, and I'll go and run, and every 3 steps I'll breathe in my nose. Another 3 steps I'll breathe out my nose. It's difficult to do 1 mile, but I've worked my way up to 2, 3, 2, 3. Even while running up hills, even if I'm running fast, I keep that same breathing pattern. As soon as I'm done, I get into my cold plunge, and then we have the sauna and we have the cold plunge. And my goal is to match the same kind of breath, the same breathing pattern. So I get in, I'm not like, as soon as I get in, it's like 2, 3, 2, 3. Stay in there from 3 to 6 minutes, do the same thing. If I'm swimming, if I'm biking, what I noticed was my world slows down because I train for the world. It's like you deserve to lose the Super Bowl if you're trying to practice the Super Bowl in the Super Bowl. So you deserve to lose at life if you're trying to practice when the bright lights come on and you're not actually training for it. But because I'm training my life force, like what's the force in my body through extensive things, and I'm finding solace and peace every single day. Now, like say for instance, argument with my wife happens, or something happens in society and everybody else is all bent up out of shape. What I do is go right back to my automatic 2, 3, 2, 3. And I'm always at a state of calm. And because I'm at a state of calm, I don't miss too many things because I'm not looking at life through the eyes of overwhelm or stressed or overcomplicated things like that. My world has slowed down because my heart rate is slower than most people, because I elongate my breath and then I train the heaven out of my breath through these extreme activities. And now my life force stays so strong. My dreams are so potent. My ideas, the way that they come in, the way that I channel, just that life force training in itself. It's like you take a trumpet and then you unclog whatever's in the way so it can blow the beautiful music. Or we're all divine channels. And if you're not realizing that you might be a water hose with 20 different knots in it, it doesn't matter how much water pressure you have. You can put on 900 pounds of water pressure, little drops of water can come through. So I continuously keep my channel open by training my vessel and training my life force. And this is a daily practice, same way that you I was working with somebody. They're like, do I have to do this every day? I'm like, yo, you brush your teeth every day. Yeah. Well, what if you brush your teeth every day for 10 years and then you stop for 5 days? Your breath going to be stinky? Well, why? He's like, well, because the bacteria will, you take a shower every day, hopefully. Yeah, every day. Okay, cool. You renew your mind every day. You clean your instrument every day. And then when you have all conditions geared, you just become a channel and you're plugged into nature. And anyone that is plugged into nature benefits from nature's resources, be it, you know, money or abundance or intimacy or love or whatever, whatever's floating around in the abundance frequency that is meant for your life to be as fruitful as possible. The fruit of your life is the fruit on life's tree. So when you are a clear and divine channel, you just get to benefit from nature's finest without overcompensating or stressing or just all the other things that just take you out of alignment with nature. So that's one of the things that I do is the life force training. It's a whole school. It's a whole practice for like from the time I get up, when I go to sleep, the things that I write down, how I do certain things with my wife, the certain preparation. There's a whole ritual to it, but it's tailor fit to my life. When I was single, it was different. Then when I got married, it changed. Then we had a baby, it changed again. So you've just got to be willing to try new things that has your operating system flowing in the day rather than being on the defensive and trying to figure out how to navigate your day. Always learn how to be ahead of your day. And the simplest thing that you can do is be a master of your breath.
That's cool. What's something that you do with your wife specifically?
When I wake up in the morning, because she doesn't wake up at the same time as me, but when I wake up in the morning, there's like certain touches that I do. I'll still say the prayer when I wake up, but I would say the most profound thing that I do with my wife is we have a love meeting every Sunday without fail at 10 a.m. And I'm going to go through this love meeting because this is probably going to save a lot of marriages. And I can tell you, it's not about the length of your marriage, it's the quality. I know people who've been in marriages for 30 years who hate each other and they stay in there because of their kids. It's the quality that I've extracted from people who actually love their partners still. I'm going to go over this and you can give them all of this in the show notes, but this is every Sunday we go over our schedule, each other's schedule. She has my schedule, I have hers, and we go over it. So there's no surprises, because sometimes when a wife when they're in transition or they don't feel safe when they don't know, when they're just not aware of things. So when things just pop up, it triggers them not feeling safe. So we go over our schedules and then we ask, is there anything that you need support with this week? So if I need to be cheered on because I got a big launch coming up and, I'm launching my leadership program or my Awaken the Artist Within retreats or something like that, she'll just be like, go, baby, I'm so proud of you. And this is something that I need, especially little Garrain. So we go over our schedule. Then we go over date night. What are we doing? Does it need to be moved? How do we make it special? How can we improve from the week before? Anybody out there? Date night. You keep dating your wife. You keep dating your wife. She wants to be pursued. Then we talk about sex. What do we want this to look like? Exploration. Anything we want or need. If she's saying, baby, I want you to go down on me this week. She's like, knowing what you want so everybody else doesn't have to play Houdini is how you get what you want. So being able to communicate that effectively on a week-to-week basis so things aren't compounding over time is so efficient of your relationship. The next thing we talk about is, this is a big one, anything left unsaid. People, they'll hold on and hold on and hold on, and 3 years later they explode. Well, every week, anything left unsaid? Are we holding on to anything, a complaint, issue, or even a compliment we didn't say? Come from neutral. We are here to better our relationship. And the last one, praise for self and others. Sometimes I can be so accomplished that I forget. I'm like, I just feel like nobody sees me. She's like, well, you haven't even acknowledged yourself. So we acknowledge one thing that we're proud of for ourselves, and then one thing that we're proud of for others. But we just be doing a lot of things, so we just end up doing 10 things a piece. And then that becomes our, we call it a love meeting. We do that, and that, the difference in our relationship with that is night and day than the difference of our relationship without that. It makes my wife feel safe, seen, recognized. It makes me feel seen, I always feel safe, seen, recognized, and it fine tunes the relationship in a way where there's no guessing game.
I bet. That's so cool. Well, good for you. I interviewed Harville Hendricks and Helen LaKelly Hunt. Harville is the founder of Imago Couples Therapy and the author of Getting the Love You Want, which is a huge New York Times bestselling book. He's been on Oprah and so forth. And one thing that he and Helen have done without fail for, 2 decades is a nightly appreciation of at least 3 things that they appreciate about the other person before they go to sleep. Orion and I, my wife and I, did this for multiple years, pretty much without fail. We've gotten out of that habit now, and we still have a really strong relationship, but it definitely made a difference doing it for years of these daily appreciations. Okay, so I know we're out of time. If we send our listener or viewer to a next action that will get them started on some momentum to make a huge transformation, what would that be, and where do we send them to get your book and to sign up for your coaching and work with you and learn from you?
This is for everybody out there. I'm inviting you to write a letter to your future self. Think about what your goals are for this year. And I want you to take yourself into the future, 2024, February 7th, 2024. And I want you to write, or whenever you hear this, but just take it out a year and write a letter to your future self, congratulating yourself for everything that you accomplished. I am so proud of you for doing what you said you were going to do, and really infuse the acknowledgement, that frequency of acknowledgement and celebration inside of this letter. And I want you to write this letter, make it a 1-pager, a 2-pager if you want to, but like really get juicy with your goals. And I want you to tap into the field of what it would feel like had you accomplished all those things you said you wanted to, that were your goals and your vision for this year. And write a letter as if it already existed, and then mail it to yourself. And then don't open it up until this time next year. And you come back to me and Stephan, and I want you to wow us by what showed up magically. That's step 1. Step 2, my book, Change Your Mindset, Change Your Life, which I wrote really practically. There's many levels of education that I have, but I wrote it so simple for people who don't like reading books. My brother read that book and he was like, man, I haven't read a book in 25 years. It was so easy to read. But the principles inside of they're ancient universal principles said in a very practical way, in the articulation in the way that I speak. There's my book. It's on Amazon. And I have one of the most powerful healing retreats in the country called Awaken the Artist Within. So I want you to imagine your life in your full self-expression, without a mask, without hiding, without doing what everybody else tells you what to do, but there's a voice inside that has been yearning to come out. I know how to pull that out. Me and my energetic practitioners that I bring into the space when it comes to self-expression, genuine confidence, and you taking a risk on the inner voices that you've never given a chance, that could be the most magical things in your life. So it is a very safe container So I invite each and every one of you. The next retreat is in May 4th through the 8th, and you'll see everywhere online. It'll literally be everywhere, and they sell out within 2 weeks. Awaken the Artist Within, or you can go to my website, garrainjones.com. You can go to my Instagram, which is garrain.jones, and I am here to serve. I am here to serve. I am here to serve. This is your conscience speaking to you. I am here to serve. And thank you again, Stephan, for having me on.
Thank you. And keep sharing your light and making a difference in the world. It's beautiful.
Thank you so much, brother.
And thank you, listener. Keep sharing your light and make a difference in the world as well. And we'll catch you in the next episode. I'm your host, Stephan Spencer, signing off.